Hi, hey everybody. I'm going to do a video today on a lot of the reductios that have been coming out. So we're going to kind of go through a little bit of a history of them um, ever since I brought up this humanity trait, because there's been a lot of pushback. People really want to take this trait down, but they're having a tough time, obviously. So the first thing whenever I was talking about it, because I had this debate with cognitive dissonance, everybody thought like it was a shell argument. It wasn't really a shell argument, it was just that was the only aspect cognitive dissonance wanted to focus on during the debate. So some people got the idea that it was really only a shell sort of thing. It was which body you were in. So the reductio on that was that consciousness is moved from a human to another being, to another. Third. Yeah, okay, I think I had that right the first time. And of course, this fails against my humanity trait because we're talking about moving human consciousness. Now, I'm not really sure if Ask Yourself is a dualist, but it really sounds like that must be what he is in order for this question to even make sense. Now, if we talk about materialism as a theory, then we would be talking about moving a brain, right? Because a brain is what generates consciousness. So in order to say consciousness is moved, we would have to say we've picked out a brain and put it into something else. And that would have been a lot harder for them to frame it like that, because then it would be like, oh, well, that's obviously a human brain. The other option would be to say, no, you can just move consciousness into another body. Under an idealist perspective, this wouldn't make any sense because everything is just ideas. So the only framing that this question could have even made sense is under dualism. Now, I don't really know if he's a dualist, but I actually do think dualism is the weakest of all possible mind-body answers. Because there's really hard to describe a mind-body relation. But we're not going to go too deep into that. Even if the consciousness moved, we would still call it human consciousness. So of course that one ended up failing. So the second attempt was to say a duplicate world is made with people's consciousness in other bodies. Otherwise, the world is the same. Right? So this is trying to take away the human DNA aspect, the body aspect, all those sorts of things. But where the connection is, we're saying it's a duplicate world with duplicate people's consciousness. So we still feel connected to this, right? We feel like we're killing people if we killed these people because we know it's a duplicate of people. So what I find is that this just shows my humanity trait more so. We're talking about people's consciousness again. And we don't want to kill things that in some way we feel connected to. We don't want to kill things that are connected to humanity. And so that's why I would say that would feel wrong to us. We just don't want to do it. It's not just that we don't want to do it. We would feel bad if that would happen. And other people would feel bad too. So we don't want to do that. And just so everybody knows, both of these reductios are for non-self-aware humans, right? Because they want to take away that. They already know that if it was self-aware, automatically it would already have the moral value. So both of these are assuming the movement of a non-self-aware consciousness or the duplicate of a non-self-aware consciousness, but we're still tying it to people. So now they're trying to say, wow, if it's just your perception, your connection, then we can look at this underlying thing. So I'm going to play a clip for you guys, and then we're going to analyze that.
They're actually saying that their perception determines whether the action is ethical, right? The action itself.
Yeah, I haven't.
Right.
Yeah.
So if someone says, oh, you know, it's my perception of this thing that determines whether it's ethical to murder it or not, right? It's like it's a perception thing. Then we say, oh, okay, so if you you know, like misperceive your mom as a tree and like chop her in half, is that ethical? Someone might try to weasel out of that and be like, well, I mean, I didn't know better, so like I'm kind of innocent there. And it's like, yeah, we're not condemning the
Yeah,
actor. The
yeah,
actor
yeah.
misperceived.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
if you're
I'm
saying the
with you now.
morality
I'm
of
with
the
you now, yeah.
action, right? Exactly.
This is,
And
it's,
So, okay, we have the scenario of the perception of someone thinking that their mom is a tree. So we're going to call this misperceiving. I'm pretty sure I spelled that right. So we have one action. I think I'm cutting a tree. I'm really cutting my mom in half. And so what they're thinking is that because I think I'm cutting a tree, that I would say that this is okay. So this is confused on a few different levels. First off, I'm not sure what he really considers morality if it isn't for the assignment of whether we think a moral actor is good or not. He seems to agree that the moral actor would be in the clear because they didn't know better, right? And so we both agree on that aspect of it. But then they're trying to say that this was totally okay because that person did this. Well, this statement is based off of other people's perceptions, right? Either if I'm the person being asked this hypothetical, then I know this is the actual case, right? So if I'm the person who thought I was cutting down a tree, as soon as I'm made aware of this, this becomes my perception, right? This is my new perception. This is also everyone else's who isn't deluded's perception. And there's no reason why they should have to call it a good thing just because somebody else was deluded. It's always going to be from their view. So I don't know how he's trying to escape this being a perception. Of course it is. No matter what we think of our phenomenological experience, it comes down to someone's perception. So he hasn't really escaped that. It's just like there's a more foundational level, or I suppose a level that everyone else agrees with, because we all see this person acting crazy. So there's no reason why anyone should have to think this is good just because someone did this. But we wouldn't blame them, and this is one thing that we agreed on. So this fails on many different levels. What I think is the more important thing is to say that, you know, when I'm talking about humanity, and I'm talking about things like this duplicate world, right? We're talking about a connection to humanity. And it is perceived. Right? So this is our connection to humanity. We feel like because there's a duplicate clone of all of humanity, that we're going to connect it to humanity. We're perceiving it to be connected to humanity. The point is that we don't want to hurt things that we feel are connected to humanity, whether it be biological, whether it be visual, audio, you know, or whether you come into these hypotheticals where you're connecting it to humanity. And of course this is our perception, because our perception is all we have. That is what makes reality. Now, if everyone in the entire world thought it was cutting down a tree, then of course we wouldn't consider it immoral, even in action, because we wouldn't know that this was really happening. You know, if this was some sort of Matrix situation or whatever. So this is a really weak objection. I'm not sure where he thought he was going to go with this. But of course, nobody else has to sign off on it. Everybody else can feel bad for the mom, right? Nobody has to agree with that. Yeah, so it has more to do with our connection to humanity. And this is why I'm going to say reductios that try and connect to people are more powerful than ones that don't. Right? So let's take some of these reductios and take out the human factor of them. Right? Moved from a cow to another being. Now, do you think the average person would have a hard time signing off on this? No. Unless the other being looked identical to humans. But we're going to take out any human factor. So let's put in fish. Right? Can I kill that? Of course you can kill that. It's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. How about this one? A duplicate world. Other cows' consciousness in the other bodies. Otherwise, the world is the same. Right? We'll change this to, I don't know, a badger. Do you think people will sign off on that? Well, they'll say there's no difference. They'll say, like, what's the difference? A badger, a cow, whatever. It doesn't really matter. What I find is that Ask Yourself's attempt at reductios is what he wants to get you to do is define humanity in a narrow way. Narrow it as much as you can. DNA, visually, something like that. We can just stick with those. And then what he's going to do is use the leftover possibilities to try and make a reductio. But the thing is, all those reductios are a connection to humanity in some way. And so what I find is that this just shows that humanity matters. It's a very broad thing. It's any of the ways we can connect to it. And he's just trying to use the leftovers to try and make you feel bad for killing in some way humanity. But if they try, like this, consciousness moved from a cow, if they never bring up humans, this just feels inept. It feels weak, right? Everybody can just sign off on these. So what I'm finding is that Ask Yourself is just proving what I'm saying is true, that we don't want to kill things connected to humanity. So yeah, we're going to finish off the clip here because I did pause it halfway through.
Sounds similar to it sounds similar to another conversation we've had. I can't remember off the top of my head, but the idea of whether the action is okay regardless of whether you misperceive it or whether the misperception is okay. It's sort of like a framing issue. Does that sound...
Well, look,
there you got cognitive dissonance looking for Ask Yourself's approval.
If they try to deny the separation, they're just going to have this really wacky reductio where it's like, oh, okay, if I like you can just go as far as you want. If it's all about perception, you can just say something like, look, if you like misperceive the button that tortures everything infinitely forever for the button that like gives you an ice cream cone or something, a nice cream cone, I should make the analogy vegan, and you press it, are you saying that the actual action that occurs after that is ethical? Right? You might now people might grant that the actor isn't at fault, but no one's going to say that that is an ethical action, that is a morally positive action.
Right, and we would agree because that there's a more underlying perception that we would think is bad. We would think this is the real perception, and of course we would say it's morally bad. So, and another point here is he's talking about these buttons about infinite suffering, right? We're talking about here, when we talk about veganism, whether or not it is ethical to kill something for food. It doesn't have to entail beating on those beings. It doesn't have to entail making them suffer for absolutely no reason. I've already come out against, sadistic tendencies or just killing for the sake of killing. So none of this is really relevant to the vegan discussion. What we're just talking about is killing for food. That's it. That's the vegan question. Everything hinges on whether or not that's okay or not. Right, so we've gone through all this. I hope I've made my case about why he's just completely confused on this perception argument, and it's completely inept. So it's another fail reductio from Ask Yourself. I don't know if he's ever going to come up with one that matters. The best one I've heard so far came out from someone else. And I think it would be nice to go over one that I feel actually pressed me and actually made me question things. Was, would you kill a googolplex of cows? I'm not going to use infinite because infinite is not a number. for a single taste of hamburger? And I thought that was a hard question, because intuitively I want to just say, no, I wouldn't. But I know for sure, would I kill a single count for what it actually produces is an easy yes. I don't have a problem with that. So the question is, why am I getting one sensation from one of these and one of them for the other? My best explanation is that in a universe where things work like this, I still feel like I'm killing for no reason. Even if I'm being told that I'm not, I still feel like I am. And I think that's the best explanation I have for that. Yeah, anyways, that's one I'll be thinking about. I think that's the best explanation, but I still want to, you know, peruse if that's actually the case. Like I've said, I think morality is a descriptive affair. We have sensations of it. We have sensations of moral wrongness, of guilt, of wanting the world to be in a certain way. And we're not always good at linguistically describing it. And I feel like that's what morality is trying to figure out heuristics of what brings about the good version of the world that we want, and how we would obtain that, which becomes a objective question, right? Like if I want to be healthy, if that's subjectively what I want, then it's objectively the case of how I go about getting that. Certain things are good and certain things are bad. We would always say eating a cake will probably not really get me to where I wanted to go. But yeah, so thanks for watching the video. I hope this explains why these continued reductios have sucked. And anytime that he's going to be trying to, you know, use the leftover possibilities of humanity to try and attack you really just proves my point more and more and more, right? So if he actually wants to start, showing people that it is the experience itself that we value, don't mention humans. Why should you need to, right? If you think a cow's experience is valuable in and of itself, don't bother equating it to humans. You don't need to. And good luck with that. You know, if you can make that stick, then I guess everybody's a vegan. Alright, thanks for watching the video, and I'll see you guys later.